Let me go ahead. I'm going to do something real quick. Yeah, this is perfect. El Perfecto. I was doing some searching. We've been doing a lot of searching. And I want to talk about some things. All right. I was sitting on my desk here watching all these videos online, and I just want to I even made a fancy little agenda sheet. We have a couple topics we're going to touch on today, and I think they're important, really important topics. And then ultimately my number one goal, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to edit all of this into a YouTube video. So we're going to just talk about it all big picture. Okay, so the first thing, I think we need to get something out of the way, all right? And I'm just going to kind of use some. This is going to be the most ghetto video you have ever seen in your life, first off, okay? But we're going to use some backgrounds, some screenshots, to make the magic happen. You know what? In fact, actually, let's just go to Twitch, all right? And I'm going to throw some gamer hair in the background, all right? Actually, nah. We don't want to get D mode, all right? So we'll just get some of my gameplay here in the background. Maybe we do that. Yes. I think that's exactly what we'll do. Okay, so just have some clean background stuff before we get to yibber yabbing. Do I got any stuff from back in the day? No? It's okay, because I think I got my webcam in the way anyways. Okay. Okay. So. Shit, I might be wearing the same thing that's actually in my fucking video. So I took this off to go ahead and get it going. Okay, so I guess the first thing that I want to go ahead and talk about is why it's too late, all right? Ladies and gentlemen, I got bad news for you. Terrible news. It's too late for this game for a lot of different reasons. But ultimately, I think with the announcement of Warzone season or Warzone 2, right? It's a wrap. We don't have to stress about this game being a problem for much longer, right? Woo, less than a year. But here's the reality, right? Ricochet was a ploy. It clearly was, right? Did it exist? I believe it did. Does it work? I actually believe it does, but not effectively. Not enough to combat people who are experienced in software development and understand the way the game works, especially in a situation where apparently source code's been leaked. And you can find that information online. I don't think it's going to be very, very, very hard to locate. Let me make sure the music's not too loud here real quick. All right, we're going to cut it down. Ooh. You know what? Let me just... I think there's a mixer board, right? Okay, I think we're good. Back to the point, right? It's too late for this game for some of those reasons that I had just listed. But I mean, ultimately, other than the coding structure and the fact source code had been leaked, it's been out for a really long time, right? I think if you were to look at some information, and I've gathered it for you, so you don't have to do the research. I've actually paid attention to this for several months over time. And truthfully, it's just running into players and actually running into some honest people along the way who were cheating. And they let me into their world, explain some things, and then honestly taking a look at some of those folks online on my own personal time who are also cheating. And we'll talk about them too. I'm going to bring them up. Maybe even we'll take a look at some of their content so you can kind of get an idea of where I'm sourcing this information from, who can really give you an understanding of why they do what they do and understand what to look for when it comes to people hacking. But I think a lot of us can agree You can't tell anymore. It's not possible to understand who's cheating and who's not if we were to really look at it or compare it to the high tier players of Call of Duty. And I think, when we really look at it, you got a lot of guys out here. I even wrote a huge list, right? Just to kind of like name a few, right? Um, I'm gonna read them off really quick, right? I'm gonna let's see. We have AOI, Boston Daily, Call of Duty Shame, Dimmy, Goon Squad, Hoppin' Dude, Loaded, Puddin, Rah Rah. Shout out to Rah Rah, definitely legit. Cross, solid players, super legit. Love him, great content. But there's a lot of people out there, and honestly, folks, I don't really want to talk about because I think they're just clout chasers, and you know who you are, right? And they have 3 letters that are usually the same, and I don't really want to throw them any clout. And I actually already set a couple names in that list that there's 2 or 3. Y'all are some clout chasers. I'm just gonna keep it real with you, 100%. I think the thing that frustrates me the most is a lot of you don't know what you're talking about. You have experience in games that, in my opinion, don't really translate an understanding of Call of Duty. And that's something that I'm going to do real quick. And this isn't something to toot my own horn, because last time I had a live stream, we were talking about it, and I did have a few viewers, right? And they kind of jumped into the chat, which shout out to them. It was cool. But they're like, how would you know? What experience do you have? And because I think I'm decent. I'm like Tim the Tatman skill up. Our stats he might be even a little bit better. Our stats are pretty comparable though, right? I average about 2 KD for the most part on regular stats overall. When we look at them, maybe just a little bit under that. I have good games often, and I win often. And I think through trial and error, making a lot of different mistakes, you start to understand and see the way the game has evolved, and you reach a point, like I said earlier, what am I looking at? So how would I know, right? How would I know? Where does my experience come from? I've been a long time gamer. I've been doing this forever. You could visit sites, maybe like Legit Proof, for example. I think that's a really great website. We could visit that. You could even search me by my name. Obi, search, bam, right? And I've actually always played Call of Duty. I started personally playing back in the day when Modern Warfare first released and really got into the competitive scene. This was something I was just, passionate about. And as you can see, most of it's just real open league stuff, right? So let's talk about competitive gaming, why a lot of people, in my opinion, fall into a tier that would be considered casuals. Right? I think most people, including some of these content creators, are casual gamers, right? And I'm actually gonna go ahead and cut the music off just to make sure it's not, impacting the video. We can edit that stuff in. But most of these people are casual gamers. They do not have league experience. They've never showed up to a LAN, or if they have, it was probably just for fun or some weird like system link back in the day. Notice a lot of these dudes are also older. That's something else I'm going to talk about as an older gamer myself. And I'm pretty young, but I'm older because I started very young. But forget the experience stuff, right? When we also really take a look at it, they don't have good explanations, right? I think if you were a top tier player, there's a lot of things that you're going to look for. Dots on the radar. It's rebirth. Did he kill a teammate so that way the other team members had appeared up on that UAV, for example? Another thing that you may potentially want to look out for, I'd say other than like audible factors, is like in the game is like I see a lot of people getting shot out of the sky, right? Did the game just finish saying that someone's deploying? Those are things that people, fail to look for there ahead of time. Whenever you see somebody kind of vibing out, they just finished wipe a team, and then they hop out and they start looking around and, just basically lasering folks out of the air. We also need to take into consideration aim assist. I don't think people really, especially folks who haven't been competitive gaming for a really long time, understand how kind of game breaking this is. And with that existing in this type of game, Call of Duty is not a console kind of game. I've heard that really poor argument. I want to let people know Call of Duty actually started on PC for your information. It was a PC game for a really long time, and it started to blow up on console. I'd say after Call of Duty 2. And honestly, there were teams like Pandemic and KT, and many, many more who were actually competing internationally, winning prize money. I mean, real pro players before there were ever any scumps and phases and optic gaming that you see today. Those people came from MLG, and the battles and cup days, because to be honest, they're a second generation batch of Call of Duty players. They're not the first generation of Call of Duty players, or Call of Duty pros for that matter. And you can do your homework on this information, right? Honestly, most of pro Call of Duty started in Call of Duty, in Call of Duty 2. A lot of like rifles, for example, rifle competitions. You saw a lot of CS, DoD type players in that community. And they played it a lot. Medal of Honor 2, right? A lot of people would go back and play COD 2. It was really phenomenal, right? I think a prank and a bore. Shout out to the real forefathers who laid the foundations for everybody, right? And then after Modern Warfare 2 is born, the console generation is born. MLG takes over. And PC gaming, I'll be completely honest with you, PC gaming kind of felt like it was going to die. Quake, I feel like, didn't take off the way everybody had hoped. Counter-Strike was getting really old, so it was kind of like not fresh, nothing new, right? We're on like Counter-Strike Go, I think, at this point. It just wasn't new, it wasn't fresh. All right, so we have plenty of Call of Duties, and we know from the track history that we don't know what we're going to get. Some Call of Duties are good, some Call of Duties are bad. And I also think that just the genre of Battle Royales were heavily diluted, right? And we missed Black Ops 4. Fast forward, I think, when we really look at all the in-between, right? Because like I mentioned, PC gaming's it's on the verge of death, right? In the console world, it's completely the opposite, right? Halo is not really cool anymore. Gears isn't really cool anymore. But Call of Duty is popping. And you're wondering how they're able to make it with these consistent and constant annual releases, right? Every year. And it's because of the console gaming community. Controllers are flying off the shelves. Console gaming teams are starting to grow. And then every tournament that you notice, right? We haven't seen PC for years. For years. Which is why when you look at some of the YouTube content, there's a lot of dudes out there claiming that this is a console game. It was not a console game. It just evolved into one because that was where the money was. It was the more accessible, more, able to be tapped into crowd. But it was never the more competitive, right? I think PC for many years has kind of led that torch. Not to say console's not right up there neck and neck with it, but when we really look at it holistically, world champions for Dota 2, League of Legends, player battlegrounds, all that stuff, CSGO tournaments from back in the day, that laid the groundwork for console to be where it's at today. So I think another thing, other than kind of understanding the history and behind the Call of Duties, is the fact that this is the first time we're in an era of crossplay, right? So now we have controllers and PCs playing together, and I think PC players aren't used to seeing an AI assisted component. We're very used to cheaters, right? I think this is something very important to talk about. The PC gaming community has dealt with cheaters forever. I see a lot of whining and crying from the console community about all the hackers and blaming them on PC players. And we're going to talk about the Chronos here in just a couple moments. But I'm just going to be honest with you. It's like a spider. Out of sight, out of mind. You were looking to cheat. So how would you know, right? This information is not relevant to you, right? And I think we have to understand, why would someone want to cheat? Well, really for two reasons, right? They're competitive, right? And they're ego driven, and their ego drives them to want to cheat and compete. And I think there's also, high tier players who probably look into a lot of those different options and never pull the trigger. It's like steroids and UFC and weightlifting. You know the shit's there. Stop saying it's not. It's there. It's just a matter of time before the right people get caught, right? So we have aim assist in there, and it's an automated thing. PC players see this, and they're triggered, right? Their brain, they're having like PTSD moments because they've been through this before. They've seen this kind of thing. And I've put my hands on a controller. I'll be completely honest with you. It's, there's a lot of curvature in how you're moving, and it's not easy to just like snap onto a target. And that's why aim assist is, in a way, it hurts me to say this, necessary. And when we really look at PC players, that snap ability, that the quick reaction time that you're able to do because of being on a mouse, that freedom of movement is very controlled and separated, right? Your keyboard is very separated from what you're doing there with your mouse. It's like, it just allows it all to come together for an all-in-one experience. Where I think on the controller, there's a lot of different things that you can run into, and even issues from the hardware itself. I'm not saying that doesn't happen on PC, but it's just a lot less likely, and it makes it a lot easier. Now, I do want to kind of talk about some of the differences in hardware and software, but I really wanted to kind of start with that base level, right? We have aim assist, we have PC. Aim assist, almost a necessary component, very hard. Yeah, you got these modded controllers, and I'm going to talk about that here in a bit, but it's not what you think. It's like buying fancy gamer equipment, right? You can get optical switches, or you can play with a membrane keyboard. It's not going to make you the greatest gamer, right? I think from a software perspective, there's a lot of advantages there for PC, even there for the new generation consoles. When you really look at it, it's not comparable. And I think you're going to see a generation in the future where honestly everything's going to shift to PC, and controller players are going to plug their controllers into the PC in order to, remain. So super awesome that we're in an era that crossplay has brought everything together, but I think that is just definitely caused people to butt heads because a few of those differences. Input is, I think, pretty much the same. You're holding something in your hands, either in front of you or down below, and ultimately you get to do whatever it is that you want. In terms of binding those keys. I think with controller, you could even argue maybe a little bit more limited. They come in pre-categorized layouts, right? And then people get to customize the buttons if they, have some type of software. Let's talk about that real quick, right? Because we're in an era now where a lot of people think the hardware is like game changing and it's going to do everything there for you. But I want to kind of start off with, the misconceptions, right? Because I don't think people on the PC side realize how often console people cheat, and I don't think console players realize how often PC players cheat, and how easy it is to kind of spot why there's a growth pattern in that, right? So I've done a little bit of research, and I've paid attention, and I've talked to some folks. So let's go ahead. We're going to start off with let's do consoles first, right? Because I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, they're controller players. They don't cheat. And we'll actually go online and we'll find some examples on YouTube of like, people who've been caught hacking, and you're going to clearly see that it, shows controller input. Now, I think the most popular form of cheating is like soft advantages when it comes to console. So therefore, they absolutely have the least population of cheaters. So let's go ahead. I think if we type Chronos, and we should be able to dive right in. Ooh, Chronos, and it should have popped up in my history from us doing some digging, but I guess not. Okay, so we're going to start off with the Chronos Zen. And apparently my dog is barking. People are home. So I think we got the Zen versus the Chronos Max. So for those who don't know, the Max is very old. I remember going to LANs when I was really, really young. This is like Battlefield 2 days. I don't even know what they were playing back then, but there was definitely a unit like this, and I remember always asking like, "What is that for?" It didn't ever sound legit, but I didn't care because I never really took console gamers like seriously like that back then. But they would always talk about it being like for input delay, and they would plug it up to simulate that, and then apparently when they were like playing online, the input delay like went away. And I'm pretty sure they even use that for like fighting games and stuff like that. So, popular device. It has been around for a very, 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 very long time, and I feel like um, a niche crowd. Like I told y'all before, console didn't get competitive until later on or until now, right? So back then it was a really small niche crowd, right? Even competitive console gamers were a really niche crowd. It was like a room like 50 people, was the sweatiest place ever. It needed to get aired out. People were like system linking, super niche crowd. And these things existed and they were around. All right, fast forward to today, right? So a Chronos Zen, and you can look at like a YouTuber, for example, like Lethal Panda, who walks people through and helps them set these kinds of things up, and they run scripts. And I think for a PC player, you might see this thing and you're gonna be like, "It's not fair." It's like, they're cheating. And well, you're right, but it's not as unfair as you think it is, right? I think when we think about scripts, it's basically someone a good way to think about it, right? A script is like in my brain. And for those who don't know, I actually have a degree, a bachelor's in computer science and information technology, and definitely am very familiar with programming and code. But when it comes to something like this, when you think about code, there's probably a bunch of strings and lines that have different commands that allow you to tweak and adjust. And I'm assuming probably like when you think about a controller, probably like the degrees that this could rotate and what X and Y does and how fast it's pressed, for example, since it's on a piece of software. So you could create rapid fire for semi-automatic weapons. Very, very possible. You could create like a snapping effect, right? You're wondering how some of the controller players do that crazy snapping. Definitely doable with something like a Chronos. And then keep in mind that the game already has like a sense of aim assist because they're on controller, right? So that might, I wouldn't know, but depending on how that input information is fed through into the Chronos, then they may be able to tweak that. In my head, I don't think so. I just feel like whatever the game was developed, right? I feel like there's a base aim assist for everything. So I think people probably get sold on like, we'll turn it up, we got your back, or something like that. And I think you could probably, based on Lethal Panda's information, upload these like profiles, like which are just going to be variations of all those different settings and tweaks. So apparently these people find one, that's right for them. Now, my big concern, right? The reason why is this a problem? So, from my understanding, apparently this device can be connected to a keyboard and mouse. And I've tried to do a little bit more research on it. And basically, the inputs will show up as the controller, from my understanding. So, how that functionality actually works, I'll be honest with you. Like I told you, like this is like a rotation, like degrees. It's like a circular movement. Um, like I think back to like high school days, like programming robotics and stuff like that. And it's just like anytime you had like a circular joystick, if you will, that it's not, it's like a grid almost, right? And you put like the positioning that you wanted things to go. So I don't think that's even remotely close to WASD or what you're going to be doing there on a keyboard. So how that actually translates, I have no clue. But it would be a really impressive device if PC and keyboards were able to hook up to it and effectively be useful. But just from my experience, not likely at all. So to kind of recap some of those advantages, right? You're going to get a bunch of scripts that are going to give you different advantages. Snapping to targets there because the aim assist already exists in the game, so that can just create that more zippy experience. Rapid fire. and probably like macros, for example. So maybe you can hit 2 or 3 buttons simultaneously at once, and then input delay, right? Um, Either eliminate or simulate that input delay for competitive reasons. So I think that's where you can kind of draw the line there. And I think everything else is going to come through kind of like a software download, right? And I don't know if Chronos Zen supports that, but there are a multitude of other devices out there that are supported like that, similar to a Zen, a little bit more niche crowd. Back in the day, it used to literally come down to like soldering it into your consoles. I used to know a bunch of modders and stuff like that, and then they could do whatever they wanted on planet Earth, soldering or putting a chip there into their consoles. But I don't think anyone's doing that on there. Probably like $700 PS5 after controllers, games, and everything like that is bots. That's it for the Zen. I think maybe something that we should probably talk about. Let's do a cheat company. Man, who were some of the people that just got like absolutely slaughtered in prior engine owning? So let's talk about something like that. Yeah, there we go. I feel like engine owning was one. Man, there's another one on the top of my head. Um, I feel like it's right on the tip of my tongue, man, and I literally just I can't think about it. If it pops in my head, we'll look at it. I think it was arguably like the most popular cheat for a really, really, really long time. Um, I don't know. Shoot. Oh, wait a second. I think I remembered it. X20, yes. Okay, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So we got 2 of the websites right here. So one of them is going to be called X22. The other one's going to be called Engine Own. And I think, I mean, honestly, I get it. People are going to be like, why are you showing this stuff? But go ahead, get your account banned because like both of these got absolutely slaughtered and destroyed. And, you're going to have a history of getting owned. But basically, this is software cheating, right? And this is PC gaming cheating. This is what people have been dealing with for decades. It's nothing new. Welcome to our problems there, console community. Welcome. Right? It's nothing new, but this is what's been going on. And software like this, let's just call it what it is. It turns you into a god. You can do whatever you want. See people through the walls, see items through the walls, see health through the walls. You could toggle all of those things. You could shoot him in the face, you could shoot him in the chest, you could shoot him in the dick, you could shoot him in the arms. I'm sure you could tell whatever it is that you wanted to do in order to help make you look legitimate. And this is probably the most popular form of PC cheating that you see today. So on console, they're using scripts, they're using modded controllers and stuff like that, but it's never gonna compete with what we're seeing right here. So always take note of that. I think to kind of get an idea of how each of these actually work, I was talking about it earlier, so we could probably do like Lethal Panda, I believe was his name. Yeah, so here's a really great example. Really good marketing of selling that. But as you can see, there's that snappiness that I was telling y'all about mixed in with the aim assist. But just an advantage. It's not really going to be the same. But then we were checking out, like, if you need an example, I think, it's Hoppa? Yeah, it's Hoppa. Legendary cheater guy. I don't even know. Here we go. This might be a piece. Nah, I think he's actually trolling on some other hackers. That seems to be his thing lately. I honestly, you understand software hacking. Yeah, it doesn't even need to be explored. I really don't even want to endorse those people further. But you see through walls. It people are obvious, and then people are not so obvious. I think people turn down some of those settings as low as possible, and mix in their pre-existing talents to find that middle ground. And I think one of the things that we should probably talk about is like the rise of content creators. And the sad part is we don't have any more of like the Doctor Disrespects and the Tim the Tatmans. We just have like it's like the rappers. Like everyone just wants to be put out the one hit wonder, in hopes that they just like take off. Um, no, the content's not original. The content isn't good. You could even say what I'm doing here is an original, right? Because there's a lot of people talking about this problem, why Call of Duty's in a shitty state, and but I don't think anyone's really got the long-term gaming knowledge and actual competitive background experience to give it to you in a clearer, more effectively explained way. So I hope I'm doing a good job for you so far. I think ultimately, when we really look at it, cheating is huge right now because streaming is huge right now, right? When we look back at it, COVID like nuked the whole world. And everybody went home, right? Everybody started working from home or being indoors a lot more often than they were originally. And this resulted and them basically wanting to play more video games, right? Because they're watching Twitch all day. They're getting inspired by their favorite streamers. They're watching like the Nick Mercs and the Swags. And these people who've been doing it a really, really long time and understand the hours of effort, blood, sweat, and tears, and watching your videos have 0 views and all of that. They put in a lot of time. People should go back and watch like the Tim the Tatman journey. Shed a tear for that man because I know his grind was real. The Asmongold grind. Those are people who've been literally laughed at until they were successful. And then we have these people, who just want to get big overnight because, well, they're averaging, in my opinion, 20, 30 kills a game. And if you're above average player and you have experience, you can do that. You're just not going to do it frequently, which is the way it should be. But, these people want to do it on a regular. And I think that causes a lot of confusion. So let's talk about that confusion. I think there's a lot of really great gamers out there, and a lot of them get talked about and tapped into by these like blood-sucking leeches, Goon Squad and Beeman and some others. Snap! I gave them clout. I said I wasn't going to do that, but I did it. I did it. But these dudes are like old and they don't know what they're talking about, and they suck. I'm just gonna keep it honest with y'all. Like, there's no other way to sugarcoat it. Like, show me your background, show me your experience. I don't care if you played Rainbow Six Siege, bro. That game is not the same. Very tactical, slow-paced, oriented game. It's actually quite unique. I love it. But I just like, I think a lot of these dudes, like, Beeman is a great example. I think they're disgruntled gamers who got banned. Y'all got caught. Y'all, if you probably go back into the archives of their content, bro, they were probably playing Call of Duty trying to make it, right? I even run into some of these cats sometimes that are super sus in a few of my games. I'm like, who the hell's this guy, right? Because we're all rocking TTV tags and stuff like that. And I go and I check him out, and he's like building clout, and I'm like, okay, yo, this guy's got like hell yeah, he's making kind of fire content. And then I watch it, and it's like literally the same video as Z-Laner or Joe Woe. They're just kind of like slightly twisting it a little bit, but they're totally ripping their style. And they're cheating. They're blatantly cheating. Because they don't understand that they're not as experienced as some of those players, right? And I get it. A bunch of weirdos are out there right now. Right? Did you see them on LAN? Did you see them on LAN, man? Because they were so bad. Have you even been to a LAN? All right. It's actually quite a high pressure event. It's loud. It's noisy as fuck. Unless it's like a really nice tournament laid out event. You'd be amazed what some cameras and really great angles will do to make an event look professional. Okay. I've been to literally more than 50 LANs in my lifetime. They're nothing special. All right. Like, you could get into an Intel LAN Fest for a couple $100. You can get into a DreamHack for a couple $100. Pay attention to the dates. Sign up. Get in. Now, if you are good enough, maybe you were playing for a team, got an invitation through some tournaments, which we'll talk about a little bit, but maybe in a different stream. If you want to get into competitive gaming, I actually want to make a video to help people like branch out from being casuals. No, a bunch of weirdos who just sit on YouTube all day and think if they play the game for 1,000 hours and watch a bunch of weirdos on YouTube that they're gonna suddenly drop 2K 2.0. And that's honestly what drives the egos for them to potentially become cheaters there in the future, right? So that's a couple things. Whew. Man, we're on a roll so far. You know, we talked a lot about those players. I think there's a lot of people out there who are just really hard to tell, right? I think like if you looked at a Z-laner, right? I think anybody who's been really playing for a really long time could just be like, this guy's lit, bro. He's lit, yo. Like game sense is on flame, and then like I don't know, you got the in betweens. Like I just genuinely don't know. I'd probably be like Uriah or something, right? Like cool dude, nice vibes. Some of the shit I really can't articulate or explain. But hey, man, you know what? It's doable, right? If you know what you're doing, it's very, very, very doable. And then you get like straight up like uber cheaters, right? Like a few of the people who've been getting caught recently, like the Captain Bald guy. I remember like watching some of his, and then I think early WAG. Some of those dudes were just like super obvious, blatantly cheating. And because of that, like, mixed tier of like really, really good above average players who, if you think about it, right, 5,000 here, 1,000 here, this guy's got 20,000, this other guy's got 500, whatever their view count is, there's thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people watching what they may think is a superstar or their idol or somebody that they want to be like, right? But just know that there's cheaters mixed within those, batches of players, and that's ultimately what causes people to get so competitive, right? We go back to the COVID discussion where this has started. Everyone's back at home. They're watching these streamers. They're getting expired, and then they realize, you know what? I have time. I have time to record a video. I have time to edit something. And then they run in there and they're doing everything they can to basically become the next big thing. But I don't think the thing that they really considered is the time and the effort that it actually takes to, be a successful anything. Streamer, content creator. It takes a lot of work, a lot of networking, and a lot of L's. Like a lot of empty nights and reworking a plan because it didn't work for you, or you know what, my view count's coming down. Great, now how do I gotta rebounce back? How do I gotta work the algorithm differently, right? Which I go back to that list of like weirdos that I was telling you about here at the very, very beginning, and those like I gave them clout earlier when I like coughed their name out, but it sucks because there's some really great people out there who worked hard to get where they're at. They networked, they made great content, and you're just tearing them down with your shitty ass content that like sucks because you can't even articulate or explain half of the half of the stuff happening in front of you. You edit stuff or speed it up. You just don't know what you're talking about. I have no other way to sugarcoat it. Now, what is worth talking about? All right, let's talk about something worth talking about. And I do think, irregardless of that mixed batch of players, the Dumas or VPNs, all the streamers are using them. I'm calling y'all out right now. Okay, how do I know? Because I've tested them. Okay, I've tested No Lag. I tested what was the other one? VPN Agent. People are probably mad. They're like, "Fuck, bro, you just selling all our shit out, bro." Hey, you know what? Fuck it, research purposes, bro. All right. And these lobbies were like complete bots, man. Complete bots. Now, to be fair, we definitely tagged those lobbies. Okay. We were very honest about our VPN usage. And we dropped bombs, right? Like 20s, 30s on a regular basis. And it like dawned on me. I'm like, this is exactly what they're doing, right? This is exactly what they're doing. So let's go back to the LAN thing that I brought up because you're like, oh, why did you bring that up and like move on? Well, why did everyone suck at the LAN? Because they weren't on VPN, right? All these really great top tier players and like pros and stuff like that. You know why they sucked ass when they went and played with a bunch of celebrities? Because they weren't at home on VPN. right? There's probably like 50% of those dudes who are like completely legit, and they're really crazy nasty players. You're never gonna move like Joe Well, so quit your fucking hating. Any of those motherfuckers trying to debunk Joe Well right now, you can't even move like him. So why are you worried about whether or not he's cheating? Fucking bots. But back to the point is like most of these dudes, I think a lot of them VPN, man. It makes for great content. It's like literally a niche, a network, a small tight group of people who all work out to make content with each other. They VPN, they know it. They're like, yo, what region are you in, man? Are you in New Zealand or Hawaii? Like, holler at me, man. Right? But whatever it is, they're all using the VPN. And honestly, it's been known for a really long time. Same thing with the Duma network router and stuff like that. Like, and Activision hasn't done shit about it, bro. All right. So if you really want to like be the next big streamer, you got two options. Okay, you cheat your dick off with either Chronos or software, or your other option is to just get a VPN. All right, it's probably got a low monthly cost. You connect to it and go play in Africa. Beat up people who are like tired because it's 3 a.m. where they live. I don't know, but those are definitely going to be some ways that you are going to boost your content value right now in Call of Duty, and I think that's what everybody's doing or attempting to take advantage of. And unfortunately for you, you're late to the show, bro. You're late to the show. Like all these dudes have been doing it for so long. They've either established a rap or a reputation that you ain't gonna fuck with. And it's as simple as that. Or these dudes are really good. Like I'm tired of people like trying to shit on like Joes and Z-laners, and it's like these dudes came from other games and were fucking demons, absolute demons. They were literally deleting everybody off the face of the earth on games that they were playing prior to this. And then they do all this half-ass YouTube research. He was like, he was a singer before. Yeah, who was fucking shit up on Fortnite after he got done with a concert? Where were you? Like, these dudes were really good, have great reputation, and honestly, their movement, their overall game sense looked exactly the same on LAN. They just got dicked on in non-VPN lobbies. That's just me. It's just me, right? Which is why you saw Tim do good, because Tim's good. Tim's like the rest of us, bro. Tim is like me, okay? Tim is like a dude who's been playing FPS shooters since like, I don't know, probably Battlefield 1942 or some shit. Probably right before that. Probably played fucking Doom and Quake and shit. Lots of what we played before everything y'all played. And the console era blew up and took over, and PC gaming is on the verge of death. Like, and he's just got muscle memory built up over decades of playing those games, communication skills, and game sense. Right, so that's why he fucked it up and absolutely crushed on everybody. That's why you see people like Dr. Disrespect, no matter how much you want to twist it or put it. Same thing as Tim, bro. He steps in there and he puts in some fucking work. May not be like Z-laner status or anything like that, but guess what? That's what happens when you got these dudes who are like young, fresh, and have like reflexes out of this world. I promise, in 10 years, they'll look like Doc and they'll look like Tim. All right, give it some time. And I think when you look at like the OGs, like the nade shot, I think those dudes are pretty close to my age, right? So you look at like all the dudes from Optic, like the OG Optic team and stuff like that. They know what I'm talking about, right? They were there for those early gaming days to watch gaming evolve and blow up, and they were probably the first, sliver or era of like, Gears and Destiny and Halo, all the really early console booming titles. So, I think, when we really look at a lot of those like accusation videos, the reason why they suck so much, other than the fact that those dudes don't have a lot of experiences, they don't know what to look for. They're looking for really stupid stuff. The reflection in his glasses, whether he's looking up left and right up on his screen. I mean, sure, if you could bust somebody that way, that's great. But I think when we look at like Shiv, right? Shiv GTK is a really prime example of what like top tier, like elite or experienced, what I would call soft hacking is. And I'll be honest, that is probably the most predominant form of hacking. I believe every single player that he threw under the bus is hacking. Because like I told you, those communities are pretty niche. They're tight knit. It's like that Chronos conversation I was having, like, right? Only the really hyper competitive, I gotta fucking win at all costs, people know about it, right? So I believe who we threw under the bus. And I think there's probably a lot of other people like that too, right? But right, just little floating boxes there through the screen. So you're just paying attention like to all the wrong things. You're trying to spot like really obvious stuff, like he snapped to him, and it's like aimbotted to his head, and like if you were a really good top tier player in any video game, okay, any video game, honestly, I'm gonna call them out. People like Beeman, and then like what is his name? Headband. Oh my god, dude, they're so terrible. Goon Squad's all right, but he kind of disappoints me because he just doesn't have good explanations. Good dude, good dude. He's not as scummy as those other two. But y'all's explanations just suck and make me believe you just haven't really played any video games that are worth a damn at a competitive level. Like you haven't gone to a LAN and lost a tournament, felt disappointed. You're just like went and played video games. You were a participant, got a trophy because you were there. I don't know, but I just don't think you've ever been in a competitive environment. I've actually like traveled to another city to go literally get 13-0'd in a tournament I was prepared to go kick some ass at. All right. So like, you gotta take some L's, okay, before you can just like jump in and be like, ooh, I know all about cheaters because I've like played video games on my Super Nintendo. So if you were to look at Overwatch, if you were to look at Counter-Strike, if you were to look at Valorant, every time you watch a replay, like professional event, Apex Legends, ALGS, right? You see these like insane high tier plays that are almost inhuman. Guess what? That's consistent in every video game. You're gonna find somebody doing some freaky ass shit. You're like, that's not possible because they're better than you. And that's something that you definitely need to cope with and get used to, and take a look at it. And I think ultimately, to sum it up, to wrap it all up, right, if we were to go look at the average user base of the entire Call of Duty community, most players, okay, most, right, are going to be less than 1 KD. That's like literally 70 to 80% of the entire Call of Duty community. So I think it's wild that a lot of these people are like hacker experts because they've been playing video games for a long time. Like I told you, you could play 1,000 hours of the video game and you could still be sorry, be terrible, right? You can have advantages like getting a fancy controller, but it doesn't make you any better. It just helps you not have to take your thumbs off the joysticks. That's all those things do, right? So if you're wanting like a paddle controller, if that's like right for you, get a paddle controller, and now you never have to lift your fingers off the sticks. So you can be like the pro players. And the rest of them all do like a crazy like a claw thing, right? They all do this like crazy claw thing, so that way again they don't ever have to leave their hands off of the joysticks, right? And that aim assist, it does carry them far. Like I'll still stay honest on all my heart. Like if we were to look at like overall game sense and overall like players, PC players would absolutely obliterate and smash console gamers. Like I just think like you could literally take them and plant them in, let's say, take 10 titles. Take 10 titles. Doesn't matter what the titles. Don't tell them what they are. And they just have to be crossplay, and they all have to play it. And I bet PC will outperform for the most part, just because of that control and snap ability and stuff like that. So, and then there are games, I think the top 3 games right now with the aim assist completely out of control. Call of Duty Warzone, Halo, and Apex Legends. Those are going to be your top 3 games where you may want to consider playing a controller. They're going to help you win all those close quarter engagements. In any other situation that's not close quarter or lucky, PC is going to win every single time. All right. So I think that's really it. Like talked about pretty much everything. And then I guess I want to close out with circling back to Ricochet. I told y'all before, is it real? Absolutely is. I think it's too late. But it was a ploy to buy time, right? They were like, let's put this out. This will make everyone happy. And then when they realized that wasn't working, like people were still getting really angry, they were like, just announce Warzone 2. Right? It was like a political move to distract you from their ultimate goal. I think the last thing to talk about is why Ricochet will never work and why the software hackers are going to be really good. I think I was talking about it earlier, but I forgot one point here as in take a look at the agenda. And that's hardware bans. So a lot of people who don't understand how hardware bans work Usually, like when a video game's playing, and it writes some information there to your hard drive, it's going to take like a series of files, right? And it puts these things called signatures, like very unique imprint of information, if you will, or data on a file. So in that signature, it's going to be like a small identifier for your hard drive. It could be like 2 numbers, 3 numbers. Then it'll be a small identifier for, I'd say, probably your CPU and your Windows. Those will probably be the most common, I think. Now, when you have that imprint put onto a file, right? What that basically tells you is it's not like loaded via kernel or anything like that, right? So most time when you think about hackers, they do something called injecting, which means it actually is put onto the computer to launch at kernel level, or at least emulate it, right? So it's in the system before the computer ever gets a chance to see it. So even when these games are running, they're never, they're never really gonna find it. It'll require basically like blatant inappropriate activity and lots of reports. With obviously, if people are cheating hardcore, they're going to get a ton of reports, and then they're going to get banned. So I guess that's number one. Now onto the hardware ban. Let's say they do get banned, because it stores those IDs as a signature and they are essentially saved after the computer is already booted. That means they can be deleted, right? So I'd say for Call of Duty, knowing the kind of game it is, when you have a game that's really public, really accessible, they're really only going to be able to track 2 things, right? Because they got to protect your information, and they don't want to have anything, come their way if they had a data breach, right? So I'd say your hard drive is probably the number one thing, and the copy of Windows that you're using is the second most important thing. So what that means is, if you had purchased a brand new hard drive, right, a brand spanking new hard drive, and installed a brand spanking new copy of Windows, and obviously I'd assume if you have a banned account, you'd have to install a brand new copy of Call of Duty. That means all 3 of those IDs are going to be replaced, and it's going to think it's a completely different computer. Right. And then for console people, if they were cheating or exploiting, they just go buy another console, and then they're right back at it, obviously on a new account. So they're never going to solve that problem. It's just like a rinse and repeat. And if you think about it, really good money, right? Because I feel like other than these like unlock tools or whatever, right? I'm sure those dudes probably like get all into the game and buy a bunch of skins and stuff like that. So it's just, I don't think Ricochet is going to solve the problem, and I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. So it's just like all these dudes like out here clout chasing, trying to get famous off of like really hardworking professional players. Y'all suck. All you people trying to get like famous, thinking that you can have boxes floating through your screen or cheat and keep it low key until you build a buzz and you'll stop. You fucking suck. And I hope, no, honestly, Warzone, you fucking suck. And I hope that it does get to like a better point and a better state overall. All right. I think that's good. It's Rap Like Reynolds. Yeah.